Were you able to take anything you had done at Def Jam, or did you have to rewrite, start from scratch with the Young Son of No One?
Scratch. There's like we always say, there's probably about 40 songs. I don't know if they still sitting in Chun King, obviously, but I got 40 something reels, big 2-inch reels too. Remember the big 2-inch reels and the little 1/2-inch reels? We had to splice and actually this was way before. That's why I tell everybody these days, bro, y'all DJs and producers, they don't know how easy they got it these days. It's so easy now because you don't really have to put in that work. You can load everything into Serato and get these CD turntables and play it. You can pull up a drum machine and get a computer screen and the thing damn near makes the beats for you. But no, we didn't get to take nothing.
Okay.
And I had some, matter of fact, not only did I not get to take stuff, but people was taking from my records. Like, perfect example, 2 times Run told me. He said, in the Christmas rap, it was December 21st, another half at the dark. He told me to my face, he said, Breeze, I was trying to rap like you on that song, because I used to rap like that. Now, how long has it been since a man like me gave a whole new meaning to? So that was him. It was December 21st on Holiday at the Dark. And he told me he was rapping like me. Then I had another song called Tear the House Down, where we had this Michael Jackson sample, and we can tear the house down, we can tear the house down, we can tear the whole house down, but enjoy yourself. And then I had a Slick Rick scratching and Party People in the House. And that ended up being was that Run's house? Run's house. Whose house? Party People in the House. Run's house. Party People in the House. He told me, I took that scratch from yours. He actually wanted to tear the house down track. And I'm like, at that time, I'm like, nah, how you gonna take my track, man? I'm still trying to get out. But, but people started just taking bits and pieces of stuff that I did and, left behind from all the music that I left behind.
That's crazy. Because as we're talking about this made me think about on the Young Son of No One, the Going Through a Phase song, because I remember how on that song in the beginning, you talked about you didn't know what was expected of you.
Yeah.
And at the time when I'm listening to it, I didn't know almost any of your real history per se of Def Jam and those trials and tribulations. I was just like, oh, is he just trying to break in the game, whatever. So yeah. With Going Through a Phase, were you referring to these struggles and these things, or were you talking just about what was happening to you at the moment, or both? Or
that was, once again, that was just a spontaneous. As a matter of fact, Pooh produced that song. That's the one joint that Pooh produced on that album. Pooh did that song.
And it does feel sonically very different than the rest of the album.
Very different from the rest of the album, exactly.
The drums in particular, and you know what I mean. They're very different sonically.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he did that on the 707 drum machine or something like that. But once again, man, that was just me trying to think of something. And like I tell people all the time, even to this day, it's like before contracts and studios became prevalent for me, I would sit down and I would just write raps every day. Just play some music and just sit down and just pen in my book. And make songs off of beats that were playing behind me, songs that were already out and stuff like that. But once studio and beats started coming in, that's when the real challenge was, because it was now you have a beat. Now you have to put something verbally to that's going to make that beat make sense to make a marriage and that beat to where it actually fits and flows together. I would say 80% of the songs that I've done was I heard the beat and had to marry a song to it.
Gotcha.
20% was I had a rap and I was searching for the beat that would work with it. I call that song Going Through a Phase because if you remember, number one, I think I was having writer's block and I was trying to figure out what I'm going to make that song. And what made me say Going Through a Phase, because he had a sample in there and kept going, ring, 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 that little thing that kind of like phase, and it kind of sounded like it was phasing to me. I kept going, why does it sound like it's phasing? Like, what did you do to the beat? And so then I was like, okay, phase, okay. And then I was like, okay, going through a phase. What can I? And I came up with going through a phase. And then it was like, okay, well, what phase are you going through? So now I start to put together the song, like I'm going through phase and wondering what is expected of me. And then, and then it came out that way.
But then you also, on going through a phase, talked about how you were wondering if people thought you were soft because you were hanging out on the West or you were in the West Coast. So what part of that was happening with you?
Well, I mean, because that was the stigma. That was the stigma. I mean, like, just to rewind really quickly, when I first came out to California in 14, actually I was like 12 when I first came to California. And I stayed here for, I think like 6 months. And then I went to go live with my father, and I stayed here with him till I was like 14. But when I came to California, when I got off the plane, the first place we went to, it was like a Walmart, but it was called Zodi's. There's an old school big store. It's called Zodi's. And I stopped at Zodi's, and the first thing I did was I was like, Mom, can I get a skateboard? And she was like, okay. And I'm like, well, I see the commercials in New York. I thought California was nothing but 6-foot white women, palm trees, and orange soda, and people just skateboard. That's what I thought it was about. So I got here at night, so I really didn't see it. And my first place that I moved was on 135th in Vermont. And this was back, huh?
It wasn't 6-foot white women and skateboards.
No, it was black dudes with khaki suits on and beach cruisers looking like Debo, driving, rolling around. But it was funny because I came out my house the next day with my skateboard in the hand. And this is the crazy thing. It was a white boy that lived in my building. And he was the first dude that I met. So I'm like, okay, like, yes. And the first thing I said, hey, what's your name? Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yo, you got a skateboard? He was like, yeah, I got one. And so he got a skateboard. We outside skateboarding. And then within 30 minutes, this dude rode past me on a beach cruiser, looking like the prototypical, if you looked up gangbanger, this would be him. And I got adapted real quick as to, bro, it's not what we thought it was out here. We thought everywhere you turn, you're going to see the Hollywood Walk of Fame. You're going to see the sign. You're going to see the beaches. It's just be this one little thing where you can see everything. Then on top of that, like, then when I'm, started to meet people and see gangbangers and people had machine guns and all type of stuff. But every time I used to go back to New York, I used to like, you out there in soft ass Cali. You out there, you probably out there getting soft. I'm like, bro, y'all got it so wrong. When y'all finally realize what's going on, like, them dudes is not playing out there. And it was like, yeah, they may have 6-foot white girls, but I ain't seen them yet. And the way I live, they not around there. So, and that was the stigma. It was like, it was always, oh, them Cali cats. Oh, them Cali. Oh, from Cali. Oh, you from Cali. Even my own neighborhood, when I used to come back to my neighborhood, they used to be like, oh, you ain't from here no more. You from Cali. And I just remember, this is the funniest thing, when my pop sent me back, when he sent me back to California, and when I came back 2.5 years later, they didn't even give me a chance to let them know, hey, bro, I'm about to be on Def Jam Records. First thing that they saw me was like, oh, yo, what's up? Oh, you back in town now? You trying to be hey, are you trying to come home now? Like, I thought Cali was your home. Like, are you from Cali now? I'm like, and I remember just sitting up there going, all right, you know what? I'm not even going to say nothing. Y'all ain't even going to know why I'm back here. Actually, this is not a visit to come here. This is actually on some music industry business. So that was like kind of the stigma on that song when you're seeing like from the West Coast thing, is because New York really had this stigma and this, against Cali, thinking that it was just soft in Cali. And I was like, hey, y'all don't know now, but you're going to learn.
Right. Well, that all makes the Scene of the Homicide song so striking to me, because when I heard the beginning of the song and the title and everything else, of course, this is 1989. Ice-T had come out, Schoolie D's been out, NWA's been out, Eazy-E's been out. So I thought it was going to be a little more literal as opposed to figurative. So creatively, how did you decide to approach the song in the way that you did?
Well, Scene of a Homicide was like the wow. Scene of a Homicide was basically a subliminal diss. And the person knew who it was that I was talking about. It was a shot at LL Cool J, basically. Because obviously, you know, he was on, he's using my producers. He's got bigger and deafer. Even like some of the beats that I was doing, just like I used to say when they would come back with beats that they did for him, and I'm like, yo, why I ain't get that beat? He would be saying the same thing to them when he would hear certain songs that I was on. And then we would take like little shots like, why y'all giving that to Breeze? He ain't coming out. Like, y'all need to give me all of that. And I'm like, oh, damn, like. So, I would hear the little rumblings, and I don't know how true it is, but I ran with it. That song he had out called the Jingling Baby, and he has a line in there where he says, I can't believe you're trying to grip the same mic as me. Your grip's too weak. You can't hold it, B. I'm supposed to be B from what I hear. Like, so I'm like, wait a minute. I'm the Jingling Baby? Like, oh, wow. Like, I don't know how true it is, but it's some truth to me, because if you're saying it and you're saying it and you're saying it, like, okay, wow, okay. So then that was just kind of like, all right, well, that was my subliminal shot back, because I can't say 100%. It was some of it was about me, or it was a line or two in there that was about me, but you can't say it's 100% about you neither, because I never said your name in that record, but that's who I was talking about. I mean, even if you listen to the skit when Muff was talking about, yo, you see that? Yo, he got a red Kango on. Oh, he got a something. And then that's when I said, what's that you said about I can't hold him? I thought I couldn't hold it or something. What's that you mumble? Now I'm gonna hand you the mic, fumble. That was a blatant reply to your grip's too weak. You can't hold it, B. So it was like, it was a subliminal diss that went back and forth that only people who actually knew. Unless you was there, you didn't know.
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out, because I knew the intro stuff, which I assumed was about him, because I didn't think it was about MC Shan, who of course also wore red Kangos. But I figured it was him, but then the song, I couldn't like forensically figure it out. So I was always curious.
Yeah.
But as other songs with the Young Son of No One is The Great Big Freak, how did you decide that, or how or why did Big Dad Daryl end up rapping on that?
Well, actually, I'm gonna tell you something. Great Big Freak was, to me, like, it was just like it was once again an attempt at Muff to pull me into the funk music with the that sample, and I was like, okay, the sample was cool, and it just became that because he put that sample in there. Gotta be the freak of the week, and I was just like, all right, so this is like my attempt at trying to make a commercial record, kind of like, let's just make something like fun and commercial like. I personally hated the song, and I didn't want it to be part of my album at all. I hated the song. Absolutely. But that's when it was like, I don't know if Daryl asked me to write him a verse or whatever, but it ended up being like, you know what, I ain't even trying to rap this whole song. So it was like, yo, let me get on it. Boom. I'm like, okay. So I wrote him a verse, and and I just thought that it was going to be either a throwaway or just like a filler. But Atlantic loved the record when they heard it. And after LA Posse, we was really trying to, we was bucking for Tyson to be the next single. we wanted Tyson to be the next single because, I mean, it was perfect. It was the title track to the album. Mike Tyson was still bubbling. We had connects to Mike Tyson and everything. But the crazy thing about that is, as that album came out, Will Smith had a song called I Think I Could Beat Mike Tyson. And he ended up getting Mike Tyson in his video. So, you know, the label was like, well, that's already done. Will Smith has it. He already has it. So we don't want to do that record. But we're like, but we're trying to follow like a blueprint to like, okay, like y'all really trying to turn me into something that I'm not trying to be. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, now y'all want me to dance some more in this video. It's like, bro, I'm not trying to be a dancer, but once again, when you up under that thumb and, you know, they telling you, you know, they the ones that's cutting the checks, they the ones that's putting out the music. I mean, it's only so much you can go back and forth against, you know, trying to, you know, win. We couldn't win. So it was just like, okay, well, put that record out. And, you know, we put that out. And since it was that kind of record, we kind of just went with the same kind of format because it was like, hey, that format worked the first time. Y'all need to recreate that format. So it's like, all right. So, and that's pretty much how that song came to be. But like, I'm going to state here for the unequivocally, I hated that song with a passion.
Okay. Well, hopefully the next one I want to ask you about is much better, which is Played Like a Piano, which of course from King T, moving on to another King T appearance. But this song is also produced by DJ Pooh. And I was intrigued because on Young Son of No One, we're going through a phase, obviously just clowning, and now Played Like a Piano. What did you notice that Pooh was bringing out of you differently, or what was different about working with Pooh than with LA Posse?
You know what? The thing that was different about working with Pooh is a DJ, right? So Pooh produces from a totally different angle. Muff produced as a producer, a programmer, somebody that programs and brings stuff together and stuff like that. Pooh kind of produces from a DJ perspective. So it's a whole different vibe and angle, the way they kind of attack their production. So it was it was different. The thing that made the stuff that I did with like King T, because I actually did three.
Freestyle.
I did 3 collaborations with him. My whole thing was, it was back to basics with me whenever I got on the record with King T. And then once I found out Ice Cube was going to be on the record, and at that time, Ice Cube was Ice Cube. So it just was always like just competitive for me. It was like, my whole thing is like, who's going to have the hottest verse on this record? So it was just like, and then once I heard the beat and I heard King T start it off, and it was like, oh, like, okay, here we go. You know, here we go. So it was a different vibe for me with Pooh, because number one, like I said, the way he attacks his production is something totally different from the way even though it's all done in the same places in the studio and stuff like that, but he's more one of those dudes that will, like, Muff will take a sample and Muff will chop a sample up, or he'll use a sample and then he'll use other shit and then he'll build this whole song, while Pooh would just kind of like program drums and scratch stuff in. So it was like different. It's like kind of like just totally different for me. And the main important thing, like I said, whenever it came down to working with Pooh, especially when it came down to working with King T, it was always like, it just brought me back to where like, okay, I'm not a songwriter no more. I can just rap and I can just like, okay, I'm just in here just to battle. Like, let's see who's, you know, nobody wants to have the weakest verse, you know? So
did you get, was it you, Pooh, Cube, and King T in there? Or did you do them separately, or what?
No, actually, I was the last one on there. I was the last one. That's why I got the last verse, because okay. I was the last one added to the record. It was him and then Cube got on it, and then Tila called me, King T called me, was like, yo, I got a joint. Are you available? I'm like, yeah, come down to the studio. Came down, heard the record, penned it right there on the spot. That's his history. And that song is probably still one of King T's most famous songs. I think it's probably his most, put it this way, Play Like a Piano, as many times as I performed with him, that's the one that gets the crowd going more than any song that he has.
Well, it's a great one. And that one, I thought you did Disc Cube with Where Beanie Not a Kango. I thought that, Disc LL, excuse me.
Oh, yeah, that was another one. That was another shot. You know, I never was shy about taking a shot here and there.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
It would be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
What's that 5 on your MTV Rap with NWA?
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.